Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nugget News. Well, today I want to present to you Bitcoin's price paradox. It's the one thing that we all care so much about, and yet it's the one thing that's actually quite hard to discover for the market. It's very volatile. There's a lot of Bitcoins that aren't in circulating supply. I want to talk about all those dynamics which make Bitcoin's price discovery hard, as well as this other paradox that I think we're getting to a point now where if nothing else changes, everything else remains equal, the lower Bitcoin's price goes, the more people are going to want to buy it. And at the other end of the spectrum, we have when Bitcoin runs up in price and we go through these cycles that I've described a number of times, we're going to have more number of people that want to buy it and get that euphoria and chase those highs. So we're entering a really interesting time, and I want to talk about the supply of Bitcoin to start with. Now, recently I made a video about the 4-year super cycle, the halvening events that are about to take place for Litecoin soon and for Bitcoin next year. And that is reducing the new supply of Bitcoin to an inflation rate that is below that of what central banks target with their inflation rate. That creates some very interesting dynamics. Now, on top of that, we have all the lost Bitcoins, as well as this hodling effect where people take those Bitcoins and put them in cold storage and they're out of circulating supply. And then we remember that the price discovery of Bitcoin comes from exchanges. So even though we've got lots that aren't actually circulating per se, we've got a lot of transactions now and deals that happen to OTC, and some people think that that can't move the price. Well, it's kind of true. It doesn't move the price on the exchange at the time, but the overarching laws of supply and demand. If we have more people buying, that will eventually push up the price when other people have to buy off exchanges and whatnot. There's always a price one person is willing to sell and pay for anything. Now, that hodling effect is different for everyone. I know people that have gifted their children, and I'm certainly planning on doing that, gifting Bitcoins to a newborn and saying, that's for your 18th birthday. On top of that, there's estimates around 25% of all Bitcoins have been lost. We have people that pass away, that lose their private keys, all sorts of things that are changing the supply and making it more and more scarce, the actual Bitcoins in circulation, available for trading and price discovery going forward. And so that's why there's such low band of liquidity of those actual Bitcoins traded that determine the price. And it's even worse when we had that big run up in December. Bitcoin transactions got to something crazy, like $50 to get a transaction through quickly on the network. And people were trying to send Bitcoins and they couldn't even get them to exchanges quick enough to sell. So the network at the time also wasn't capable of handling all that capacity, again, adding to the illiquidity. And then we had a rush of people trying to sell at $20,000, and we saw how quickly the price went down. Now, in the future, we're going to have a lot less volatility as this market matures, the style of investors mature. I'm really hoping that if we get any Wall Street products, options, futures markets, and those derivatives of sorts, that they're fully backed. And that's almost an oxymoron, saying you can have derivatives that are fully backed, because we've become so accustomed to the way that Wall Street works with leverage and whatnot. But the fact is, in the world of Bitcoin, we're already seeing certain projects, DYDX, for example, create derivatives that are fully backed. And this is really exciting to see. We should demand that of any investment product. If there's an ETF, it has to be fully backed. We don't want these things that speculate and peg the price and get that, from futures that aren't backed at all. So that's really what I'm hoping, if the space goes down that path at all. But obviously, I've always been pushing the real use case and adoption in developing nations. That's where I think Bitcoin is going to have the biggest sort of use case and get its rise in demand from. And demand is what I want to talk about next. So why supply was fairly scarce and fairly illiquid, that led to a huge run up in price, that is going to change somewhat. We're going to get more stable, and all those derivatives and market mechanisms decrease the volatility as there's more and more people trying to accurately price Bitcoin in the future. Now, that doesn't mean it can't still go up dramatically, but I don't think we're going to see, going from a few thousand to 20,000 in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a more gradual adoption and increase in price, I believe, in the next run. So it is getting easier, and it was very easy to get new people on board. Coinbase were creating something like 10,000, 20,000 new accounts a day. They couldn't even keep up with the KYC process. So what we're seeing being built out at the moment is this infrastructure to onboard people. So it is going to be so easy. We already see things like the Square Cash app, the Arbor app. In Australia, you can go to any news agency now with Blue Shift and buy Bitcoin. So there's so many on-ramps. It is so easy to get people into this space now. And that is another reason that demand is becoming easier and easier every day. Now, as price drops, if we get to this point where Bitcoin has this final leg down in price at time of recording and we get down to below $2,000, some people are saying $1,000, whatever it is, I think there's so many people out there that are saying, wow, I can buy a whole Bitcoin for $1,000, I'd back the truck up. And that's one of the reasons why I think we are going to see an increased demand if those prices go lower, as well as that increased demand as prices go higher that I've spoken about. Once people realize that Bitcoin's not dead, that was another one of its famous market cycles that it has, and it's off to the races again. I think people get very, very excited when they realize that Bitcoin isn't dead. We might have all these funds, some Wall Street participants, some more developing nations using Bitcoin. Other countries have suffered hyperinflation. We might have some financial crisis in other areas. There's so many little catalysts that can spark that next Bitcoin run, as well as all those speculators that then come with that. So if we get to those lower prices, the last thing I want to sort of talk about is the market cap. And if we take into account lost coins, the total market cap of Bitcoin, if we got to $1,000, would be something like $10 to $15 billion. Now that is so tiny. You look at the numbers that these funds are raising in terms of capital, the trillions of dollars that our established funds manage, it is such a drop in the ocean. And we're already seeing fund managers come out and say, yeah, we acknowledge this is a new asset class. We have to get off zero. We're not sure what the right percentage is, 1%, 5%, 0.5%, but we think that clients want exposure to this new asset class. It's part of the modern investment theory, modern portfolio theory, whatever you want to call it. So I'm very excited about the current state of the network. I think a lot of people are still really bearish, which is really healthy for the market and price discovery. I think we're going to go through more cycles in the future. Every cycle is going to be different, but that human emotion of euphoria and speculation that comes along with it is part and parcel of human nature. And what we've seen from the smart investors in the top 100 addresses is the Bitcoin whales. I read an article recently, they've accumulated another 150,000 Bitcoin. They're smart money. It's not budging. They're accumulating coins. They're confident. They're building the future. And it's been those speculators that have been washed out of the market. So that's the Bitcoin price paradox. Let me know what you guys think about that. Is the demand going to pick up as the price goes lower and as the price goes higher? Why is price discovery so hard for Bitcoin, and is that going to improve? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.